It's good to be back to school and learn lots of stuff. And this year, Spanish lessons will be great. This will be fun.
Hola a todos, ¿qué tal? Me llamo Marco. Voy a escribir mi nombre en la pizarra. Marco. Y soy su nuevo profesor de español. Hoy vamos a estudiar el pretérito imperfecto del subjuntivo para hacerle la vida más difícil a los estudiantes.
What?
¿Tienes una pregunta?
Gosh, who can help me now?
Have you been in a similar situation? You are in your first Spanish class, you want to participate and ask questions, but don't know how? If that's your case, then stay here to learn some useful words for your first day of your Spanish lessons. ¡Vamos! ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Todo bien? I really hope so. Me llamo Marco, soy de Chile y soy el presentador de este podcast. A podcast intended to help Spanish beginners with their first conversations. So, if that's something you're interested in, consider subscribing. In this episode, you will learn vocabulary that will be useful for your first day of Spanish lessons. We will look at some classroom vocabulary and also basic questions to request information in Spanish and that way start interacting in Spanish from day one. ¿Listos? ¡Empecemos! Interacting in Spanish in your language lessons is very important to start on the right track. And you can do it from day one. That gives you that initial boost to get started and also feel confident that people can understand what you're saying from the very beginning. And that's precisely why I wanted to create this episode, so you can surprise your new Spanish teacher by showing you already know some words related to the classroom and also ask basic questions such as what does that mean or how do you say whatever word, that kind of questions. And if you're a teacher, you can send this episode to your beginner students who sometimes tend to forget this kind of vocabulary and questions in Spanish by lesson 2 or 3. Oh yes, I'm sure you have noticed too, so you can thank me later. Let's review first some classroom vocabulary. Do you know the names of the objects you can find in this place? Let's see. Name at least 3 objects in Spanish you can find in the classroom. Go! Were you able to name at least 3 objects? If that's your case, very good. If not, let's study some of them. Make sure to repeat with me so you can practice saying the names of these objects in Spanish. Let's imagine we are in the classroom and the teacher has not arrived yet. When you get to the classroom, you sit on a chair, and that's silla. S-I-L-L-A. Silla. Then you open your book, libro, L-I-B-R-O, libro. And also you open your notebook, which is cuaderno. C-U-A-D-E-R-N-O. Cuaderno. And then you get ready to take notes, tomar notas, with your pen, which is bolígrafo in Spanish. B-O-L-I-G-R-A-F-O. Bolígrafo. Some students might have a pencil, which is lápiz. L-A-P-I-Z. Lápiz. And here is important to mention that some Spanish-speaking countries use different variations, different words for pen. For example, in Chile, my country, we just use lápiz for pen and pencil. We don't use the word bolígrafo here. And in other countries, they use words such as pirome, lapicera, pluma. So make sure to ask your teacher what is the word that they use for pen in their country. Let's continue with some other items. Those of you who are perfectionists and like to draw straight lines when underlining words, you might carry a ruler, which is regla. R-E-G-L-A. Regla. And for sure, you don't carry all this stuff in your hands. Where do you carry all of this? In your backpack. And do you know how we say backpack in Spanish? It's mochila. M-O-C-H-I-L-A. Mochila. And when you're all set and ready for your first lesson of Spanish, the teacher arrives. They say hola and introduce themselves. If you're not familiar with how to do that, you can listen to the first episodes of this podcast. And then the teacher will start writing on the board, which is pizarra. P-I-Z-A-R-R-A. Pizarra. And pizarra can refer to either whiteboard, blackboard, doesn't matter. It's the place where the teacher writes and gives explanations. Nowadays, for example, there are even pizarras virtuales, the ones you see the teacher using when you have online lessons on Skype or Zoom. Those are also called pizarras. Okay, let's continue with more vocabulary. Maybe the teacher has access to a computer in the classroom and they use a projector, which in Spanish is proyector. P-R-O-Y-E-C-T-O-R. Proyector. That's possible when they have a computer in the classroom. Computador. C-O-M-P-U-T-A-D-O-R. Computador. What's funny about the word computador is that there is no agreement whether it's masculine or feminine. That's why you will hear some people say computador and other people say computadora in Latin America. And in Spain, they use ordenador. Any of these options is clearly understood by any person who speaks Spanish, so don't worry too much about which one you will use. So, with all these elements in place, your first Spanish lesson is about to start. And now that the lesson has started, after the teacher has greeted everybody, the teacher starts speaking Spanish, and you find yourself with limited vocabulary and you want to ask your first questions. You want to say, how do you say this and that? Or maybe, what does that mean? Let's see how you can do that in Spanish. Let's look at ¿qué significa plus word? Let's suppose the teacher asks students to open página 4 and you don't know what the word página means. Well, in that case, the question you can ask is ¿qué significa página? What does página mean? ¿Qué significa página? At a normal speed, it would be ¿qué significa página? Significar is the verb to mean in Spanish. And the teacher will explain that the word página means page. Basically, the structure is ¿qué significa? Plus the word you don't know. ¿Qué significa bolígrafo? ¿Qué significa computador? ¿Qué significa lápiz? And so on and so forth. So this one is used when somebody else says a word and you want to know the meaning of that word. Let's analyze now cómo se dice plus word. Let's suppose that you have a word in your mind. You don't know the equivalent in Spanish of that word. For example, maybe you want to mention the number of a page. Let's say page 5. But you don't know how to say 5 in Spanish. In that case, you can ask ¿cómo se dice 5 en español? At a normal speed, ¿cómo se dice 5 en español? Pay attention also to the intonation. Once again, ¿cómo se dice 5 en español? And to this question, the teacher will reply 5. I'm sure you know this word, 5 de mayo, right? So it's very popular, but 5, that's 5 in Spanish. So basically, the central part of this question is ¿cómo se dice plus the word you want to know? ¿Cómo se dice dog? ¿Cómo se dice table? ¿Cómo se dice cool? And your teacher will give you the equivalent in Spanish. Let's review one more option. Let's suppose that we are in the middle of the lesson and at this point your teacher forgot that he's teaching beginners and he starts using his regular speed. Yes, he's speaking rapid fire Spanish. And by the way, that happens to me sometimes. But this will be useful in this case. If you don't understand what the teacher says, you can say, no entiendo. I don't understand. No entiendo. And then you can follow that with, puedes repetir, por favor. Can you repeat, please? Puedes repetir, por favor. At a normal speed and with the right intonation, no entiendo. ¿Puedes repetir, por favor? And if you want your teacher to say something slower, you can say, más lento, por favor. One more time, más lento, por favor. And with that, you will be requesting your teacher to say things slower. Okay, queridos estudiantes. Let's see how some of these elements are combined in a dialogue. You will listen to a Spanish teacher and a student having an interaction. In this interaction, the student will ask some of the questions that you have learned in the episode. This will give you an idea of how to use the words you have learned today. Are you ready for this? Here we go! Hola estudiantes, bienvenidos a su primera lección de español. Me llamo Marco y soy su nuevo profesor. Y bueno, comencemos. ¿Tienen el libro?
¿Qué significa libro?
Libro es a book. Abran su libro en la página 4. Hay una imagen, picture, para describir, to describe. ¿Qué ves en la imagen? What do you see?
A family. ¿Cómo se dice family?
Family se dice familia.
Oh, sí. Una familia y un perrito.
Correcto. Una familia y un perrito. Sí, un perrito muy amigable. Está feliz con la familia.
No entiendo. ¿Puedes repetir?
Okay, estudiantes. I really hope this dialogue helps you to have an idea on how you can use these questions. You might have noticed that the voice had an English accent when speaking Spanish, and that's on purpose. Don't be afraid to speak Spanish because you might have an accent. That's not important. People will understand you regardless of your accent. And you can take it from me. I'm not an English native speaker, and yet I managed to create a podcast in English, which is not my first language. But for me, what is important is to communicate my ideas. And to finish, at the beginning of the episode, I ask you to name 3 objects you can find in the classroom. Can you name at least 3 objects now? Let's see, say it. Well, hopefully you were able to do it. If not, you can go back and review that vocabulary. And that's all for today. Thanks for listening to Speaking Spanish for Beginners. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your Spanish beginner friends. Creating this content takes hours and hours, so it means the world to me if you take 30 seconds to help me spread the word. And if you're studying Espanol to travel to a Spanish-speaking country, You can get my Spanish Adventures Companion, my free ebook and premium podcast designed to make your travel experience more enjoyable so you can communicate with Latinos with ease. Don't miss out on this great resource. You can get it for free on my website www.latinle.com or with the link in the episode description. Have a great day. Hasta la próxima. Chao, chao.